Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Welcome. Welcome. Feel free. Come in. Take a seat, whatever you like. Welcome. May I propose to toast? Oh, welcome, welcome. Come in, come in. Do you guys need an extra chair in the back? Are you guys all good? Yes, perfect, perfect. Welcome, welcome. We might need a few extra chairs. A few extra, yeah.
put it on. Okay, how's everyone doing? All right. So welcome to FGCU Storytelling. Ah, they do so well. I love it. I'm Dr. Joel Ying for everyone else out there, and I help produce the FGCU Storytelling events here on campus, and I have my students in the Storytelling is Healing class. Yay! And we're excited tonight to have the Tamiami Tale Tellers come by, and we have some exciting stories for you. Kim Whitecamp couldn't be here tonight, but the show must go on. Now, let's see. So our stories, you know, they're, there's nothing too terribly scary in our stories today. But we'll have some fun stories, and they'll get maybe a little bit more serious as we get to the end. All right. How many people like to be scared? Oh, a few people. Well, don't worry. I promise you, you are safe in this room. Just please don't leave. I can't guarantee your safety if you do. All right. We are storytellers. We take you on a journey, and we promise to bring you safely back. So, a couple things. Please, if you have one of these devices, to silence it. And also, if you're running out between stories, the bathroom is out the hall, to the left and to the right. A word of thank you to the Seidler Foundation for their sponsorship, also to the Wasmer Art Gallery here, and to the Creative Writing Program, the Department of Language and Literature, and the Department of Integrated Studies, all doing wonderful things. So let's give the FGCU a round of applause for storytelling. Well, I am excited to bring you some spooky stories. So without any further ado, I'm going to start off with one of our Tamiami tale tellers who is well loved already by all of my students. They said, when is she coming back? When is she coming back? I said, I don't know. And then I told her today, and they're like, yay! So they're very excited for her appearance yet again. Miss Mary Lou Williams will be coming up to wow you with a spooky, spooky story, maybe a little laughter and a little fun. Please help me welcome Mary Lou Williams.
Okay, thank you, Joel, and thank you all. The story I'm going to tell you tonight is a folk tale that I adapted from a folk tale from it's a folk tale that I fractured, and it's called. Do you all know Jack and the Beanstalk? Yeah, this is the same Jack, except now he's in a haunted house, and it's called Jack and the Haunted House. And I adapted it from an adaptation by Carmen Agrediti. She adapted it first, and then I fractured her fracture. So, Jack and the Haunted House. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Jack who lived at home with his mother. They were very poor. In fact, so poor that Jack's mother could no longer pay the mortgage. So she decided it was time for Jack to go out and seek his fortune. But Mom, said Jack, do you think I'm old enough? Yes, said his mother. You're 21. Now get out of here and go seek your fortune. And she slammed the door and she locked it, click. Jack's mother had given up on Jack ever going to medical school. So out Jack went to seek his fortune. He looked high and he looked low. He looked hither and he looked yon. He looked far and he looked wide. He looked back and he looked forth. But by the end of the day, he still hadn't found his fortune. So he turned his attention to finding a place to sleep. Well, who should come walking down the road just at that moment but a perfect stranger? Now, not many people are perfect, but this stranger was. Jack had never met him before, never even gotten an email from him. Jack told the stranger that he was seeking his fortune and a place to spend the night. Well, said the stranger, if you're seeking your fortune and a place to sleep, you can find them both in the same place. You see that house up yonder, that empty house on that hill? The house that looks like it's haunted, said Jack. That black house with the cobwebs in the windows and the broken shutters and the bats flying around the chimney? Yep, that's the one, said the stranger. In that house is a fortune. But why hasn't anybody found it before? Asked Jack. Because, said the stranger, the house is haunted by a skeleton. A skeleton, gasped Jack. Yes, a bona fide skeleton, said the stranger. Well, Jack thought about it. A skeleton or a fortune? A fortune or a skeleton? Jack decided he was more scared of being poor than he was of that skeleton, so he ran up the hill toward that house, and he decided he's going to spend the night there. Well, the closer he got, the spookier it looked. There was an owl hooting in the trees, hooting in the trees. Hoo, hoo, hoo. The wind whistled and howled. The cobwebs swayed in the window. The broken shutters banged against the wall. The bats flapped their wings and screeched. A black cat crossed his path. Jack knocked on the door. Nobody answered. Oh, well, said Jack, I'll come again another day. But all of a sudden, the door creaked on its hinges and slowly opened. A smell came out of the house. It went around Jack's head and under his nose. Sniff, sniff. What was that smell? Then he recognized it. It was the unmistakable smell of baked beans. Oh, they smell so good. He stuck his nose inside the house. He stuck his head inside the house. He stuck his whole body inside the house, and bam, the door slammed shut. Click, it locked. He couldn't open it. He changed his mind, but it was too late. It was pitch black inside, but except for a glow of light at the end of a long, dark hallway. He followed the glow to a large room in which there was a fire going in the fireplace. A pot of beans was simmering over the fire. A table was set with a bowl and a spoon, as if somebody was expecting him. But who could be expecting him? The skeleton? Jack didn't like the idea of the skeleton joining him for dinner unexpectedly. That would cause him to lose his appetite and the baked beans. He decided he would go looking for that skeleton before the skeleton came looking for him. Now, where do you think he looked? Where would you look for a skeleton if you were looking for one? Anybody got any idea? In the closet, yes. When people have a skeleton, they hide it in the closet. So Jack went looking for the closet, and he found the closet, but it was locked. He couldn't open it, but he just happened to have a skeleton key. It gets worse. So he unlocked this door, and whoop, he opened it up, and no skeleton, so he thought he was safe. So he went over to the chimney, and to ladle out some baked beans, when all of a sudden he heard a ruckus and a rumpus, such a clatter, such a loud noise. Clickety-clack, bam, boom, slam, bam, clash, crash, clang, bang, crack, smack, bing, bong, ding, dong. And down came a pair of skeleton feet. And they landed in the fire and then hopped out and started hot-footing it around the room. But they weren't attached to the rest of the skeleton. They didn't have a leg to stand on. They were footloose and fancy-free. So they parked themselves in front of a rocking chair, kicked up their heels, and waited for the rest of the skeleton to come and join them. So Jack went over to the chimney, and he called up again, "Hey, shake a leg up there!" Clickety-clack, bam, boom, slam, bam, clash, crash, clang, bang, crack, smack, bing, bong, ding, dong. And down came a left leg and a right leg. He attached the left leg to the left foot and the right leg to the right foot, and the feet and the legs started dancing about the room to the tune of I Ain't Got Nobody. Everybody needs somebody sometime, thought Jack. So he went over to the chimney and he called up again. Hey, anybody up there? Somebody, come on down. Clickety-clack, bam, boom, slam, bam, clash, crash, clang, bang, crack, smack, bing, bong, ding, dong. And down came a hip bone, a backbone, a shoulder bone, and some prime ribs. The skeleton pulled himself together. The leg bone connected to the hip bone connected to the backbone connected to the shoulder bone, and the shoulder bone connected to the prime ribs. Now, the skeleton had his feet, he had his legs, he had his body, but he was completely unarmed. So Jack went over to the chimney and he called up, lay down your arms. Clickety-clack, bam, boom, clang, bang, slam, bam, clash, crash, crack, clang, bang, crack, smack, bing, bong, ding, dong. And down came a left arm and a right arm. They almost knocked over the pot of beans. Hey, don't spill the beans, said Jack. He attached the left arm to the left shoulder and the right arm to the right shoulder, and now the skeleton was completely armed, but he had no hands. So Jack went over to the chimney. Hey, give me a hand down here. I need a hand. Clickety-clack, bam, boom, slam, bam, clash, crash, clang, bang, crack, smack, bing, bong, ding, dong. Down came a right hand, a left hand. He attached the right hand to the right arm and the left hand to the left arm. And now, now the skeleton was completely armed. He was all set, but he was missing. What was he missing? His head bone. He was running around the room like a chicken without a head. I've lost my head, said the skeleton. So Jack went over to the chimney and he called up, hey, head on down, head this way. But it was silent as a tomb. There was no sound at all. He called up again, hey, head this way, head on down. But he made no headway. Gets worse, as I said. Anyway, so he was thinking about this when all of a sudden he felt a tap, 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 tap on his shoulder. Turn around, boy, said a voice behind him. No, said Jack. So the skeleton spun Jack around, and Jack found himself looking the skeleton square in the air. He couldn't look him square in the eyes because he had no eyes. Why? He had no head. You might say the skeleton was an airhead. So Jack, said the skeleton, I've got a bone to pick with you. What bone? Said Jack. My head bone. But you don't have a head bone. That's right, said the skeleton. That's why it's a bone of contention. Jack, said the skeleton, aren't you afraid? Only when you talk like that, said Jack. Jack, said the skeleton, you are a brave boy, so I am going to tell you my... Whoops. I thought I'd scare you. So the skeleton said, I'm going to tell you my story, but I'll keep it brief, just the bare bones. So once upon a time, thank you, I was a boy like you, young and stupid. I met two sailors in a bar. They told me that their ship needed a cabin boy. They said the pay was they said the food was great, the work was easy, and the pay was good. It was a Carnival cruise ship, and all they do all day long was party, party, party. So I joined up, and I joined up, and as soon as we got out to sea, they took down the Carnival cruise ship flag, and they raised another flag, a black flag with a skull and crossbones. Oh, so you found your people, said Jack. No, said the skeleton. It was a pirate ship, and it had a skeleton crew. The ship went down. It crashed in a terrible storm. The captain went down with the ship. That was good, said Jack. No, said the skeleton. Two pirates survived, the two sailors that I had met in the bar. They followed me home to steal my gold. They followed me right to this very house. They killed me for my gold. But I had hidden it where they couldn't find it. So out of revenge, they didn't give me a proper burial. They scattered my bones far and wide. With your help, I have found all my bones except one, my head bone. I don't want to rest in pieces. I want to rest in peace. So I need a human boy to help me get my head bone. I don't know any, said Jack. You are a human boy, said the skeleton. Well, I don't know where your head bone is anyway. I do, said the skeleton. And I would get it myself. I'm not a lazy bones. But as you can, it requires strength. And as you can see, I have no muscle tone. I'm just a 20-pound weakling. I need a human boy to help me find my head bone. You are that human boy. How do you know it's me? Said Jack. I feel it in my bones, said the skeleton. Well, where is your head bone anyway? It's in the cellar, said the skeleton. So that right then, the skeleton lifted up the cellar door. It was pitch black down there. Oh, I'll get it for you first thing tomorrow morning, said Jack. The skeleton pulled off one of his fingers. He put it in the fire. It lit up like a candle. It was bone dry. Then the skeleton gave Jack the finger. Get it now, said Jack, said the skeleton, and he made no bones about it. So Jack went down into the cellar and he started digging. And he had to have that bone before the cock crowed 3 times, otherwise it would be too late. So he dug, and he dug, and he dug all night long till the crack of dawn, and he was so tired he couldn't do it anymore, and he shoved the shovel into the dirt, and clink! What was that? He shoved it in again. Clink! Ouch, said the skeleton, and the cock crowed once. Quickly, Jack pulled the skeleton's head out of the dirt. The cock crowed twice, and then he was just about to put it on the skeleton's shoulders when the skull popped out of his hands and started spinning around the room, and it spun and it spun and it spun till it came right down on top of the skeleton's shoulders. Clickety-clack, my head is back, said the skeleton, and the cock crowed 3 times. Well, so now that the skeleton had a head on his shoulders, he had his wits about him. He wasn't a numbskull. Jack, said the skeleton. Yes, said Jack. Thank you for helping me pull myself together. Because of you, I now can rest in peace, not in pieces. So as a result, I'm going to give you a reward. On the table upstairs are 2 sacks filled with what? What do you think? You heard the story before. Yes, filled with gold. So Jack took the gold. He went home to his mom to tell her he'd found his fortune. Mom, I'm home. Go away, said she. But Mom, said Jack, I found my fortune. Welcome home, son, said his mother. And Jack and his mother lived happily ever after for the rest of their days. The end. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, they say that puns are the lowest form of humor. Mary Lou raises it to a higher art, right? Did anyone else groan? Yes, puns make you groan. Okay. Let's give another round of applause, Mary Lou Williams. Our next storyteller is also part of the Tamiami Tale Tellers, and she's also a retired professor from FGCU in the occupational therapy. And she's, no one ever retires. Now she's a storyteller. She was one before and coming to our events, and she's going to tell some stories for us. And she's wondering, what are you scared of? A little medley of spooky.
So this first story is a Japanese folktale. There will be 2 words you'll need to, you'll learn. There is a little old woman who lived way off in the hills in a wooden hut. And she would make a fire each night to keep herself warm. And this one night, she heard someone calling to her. So she opened the door, and there was a tengu. A tengu is a monster with a huge nose. Well, the tengu came into her house. I mean, she didn't realize it was going to be a monster. And he went over and sat by the fire. So she closed her door and went over and sat by the fire. And as she was trying to keep herself calm, she said, what are you the most scared of? And the tengu said, I'm the most scared of green branches in a thicket. What are you the most scared of, Granny? Oh, I'm the most scared of boromochi, which is rice cakes, and little gold coins. And they sat there for a while, and then the tengu got up and left. And the old woman thought, oh, I better get myself some branches tomorrow. I don't want this happening again. So the next day, she collected a whole lot of branches, and she stacked them all around her house. And the next night, when the tengu came back and he saw this and was afraid, he got really angry at that woman. He says, oh, I'll fix you. And he went to a certain house, and he had a whole lot of boromochi made up. And then he went elsewhere, and he got a big bag of little gold coins. And the following night, he came back, and he climbed a tree. And he said, I'll get you, you nasty old woman. And he started throwing the boromochi down her chimney. And she said, oh my, I'm afraid. And he thought that was great, and he threw his whole bag of boromochi down her chimney. And when they ran out, he started throwing in the little gold coins. He said, what do you think of that? There's no answer. He thought, ha, she's died of fright. Climbed down the tree, went away. Well, inside the hut, the little old woman was eating the boromochi and was really happy because she never had enough to eat. And then she thought, living way out here, who knows what else could happen? But now she had a big bag of money. I can move into the village and live very comfortably. And so she did. This story is called Witch Hunt. It's by Christy Golden. Eight-year-old Jason stopped half a block from the witch's house. He couldn't believe he was doing this. He was the one who came up with the idea. He wasn't supposed to be carrying it out, but he had drawn the short straw, and now he was stuck with it. He looked into the bucket he was carrying, had a dozen eggs that he had borrowed from the refrigerator. He hoped he wasn't around the next time his mom wanted to bake anything. He had seen old lady Barrett, excuse me, go to the grocery store about an hour ago, and that's when he ran home to get the weapon of choice that the other kids had come up with. He figured she wouldn't be back for at least a few more minutes, and it seemed quiet on the road. He looked at her house, looked kind of typical. Small two-story, neatly kept front lawn, fenced backyard, Okay. He ran down the street, past the Smith's house and the Davis house, and he was standing there in front of the Barrett place. And there in the window was the black cat that surely identified the owner. Well, the cat sat up and looked at him. And that was exactly what Jason needed to overcome his fear, which he was really embarrassed at being afraid to begin with, but that cat was now a target. And he lifted an egg and he pitched it at the window. The cat was startled, arched its back and hissed. And he threw another and another. And at that point, the cat said, "Oh, I've had enough," and it went behind the curtains. Well, Jason wasn't afraid anymore. He was so excited doing something forbidden. Grabbed another egg, and this time he threw it at the front door, and it landed right in the middle of a wreath. And its yellow and clear goo just dripped down over the dried flowers, ruining them. He was delighted. He grabs another egg, and a hand grabbed his shoulder. He dropped the egg. He knew who it had to be and what to expect. Green eyes, jagged teeth, hooked nose, evil cackle, and he turned. And it was old Lady Barrett, but while her face was gone, it didn't have a look of glee or fury. It looked kind of sad, and she had brown eyes and a straight nose and no wart at all. Jason Clark, I didn't think it would be you. I thought you were a nice boy, not someone who would stoop to egging an old woman's house. Jason couldn't respond. He was too busy trying not to wet himself. Well, come on in then. That sparked him into new life, and he started to struggle, and he stopped, shocked, because she let him go. When you leave, I'm going to call your mother. But if you come inside with me and let me explain some things, I'll just forget this whole thing happened. Jason was still scared, but at this point he was more scared of his mom's angry lectures than this sad-looking old woman. Okay. Old Lady Barrett walked up the stairs, fumbled in her purse for the key, let them into the house. The cat was there, meowing and weaving around her legs and purring like an ordinary cat. This, Jason, is Cuddles. Jason was really surprised. It's like, Cuddles? Surely it would have been named Devil or Lucifer or Satan. Old Lady Barrett walked down the hall, past the stairwell, and put her bag of groceries down on the table in a very ordinary-looking kitchen. When she was a kitten, she loved to cuddle in my lap. Still does. She started unpacking her grocery bag, and it was ordinary stuff. Oatmeal, cat food, milk. So Jason was trying to process that, well, I guess she isn't going to throw me in the oven and serve me up with potatoes and gravy. when she said, "Would you like a cookie? There's one in the container on the counter over there." Jason thought, "Oh, she's gonna poison me. While you're at it, get me one too." Guess poisoning's out. So he looked in the little ceramic bear, and they were ordinary chocolate chip cookies. They smelled really good. So he took one and he gave one to her and noticed she had a ring on her fourth finger. She kind of looked like a grandmother. And then he thought, all those photographs that were in the hallway that he hadn't paid much attention to, those were grandchildren. He watched her eat her cookie and then ate his slowly as she put the perishables away in the refrigerator. "Would you like some milk?" "No, thanks. What did you want to show me?" The old woman looked at him through her glasses. She was wearing sensible shoes and support hose, a plain dress, a gray sweater. "I wanted to show you the inside of my house." Jason felt so embarrassed that he and the guys had pegged old Lady Barrett so wrong. She was a harmless old grandmother. "Mrs. Barrett, I'm so sorry. I know what I did was wrong. I'll never do it again. It was just so mean to egg your house." Old Lady Barrett smiled at him and said, "Well, I do believe you mean that, Mr. Clark. And in that case, why don't you take a handful of cookies and we'll forget about this whole thing." Jason took 2 more cookies and mumbled another apology and ran for the door. The old woman heard it bang shut. And she went to the door to watch him run home. The cat came and sat by her feet. "Cuddles?" I had to think of something appropriately harmless. "Yeah, but cuddles? Do you think he swallowed it?" Hook, line, and sinker. The witch locked her door and with a wave of her hand dispelled the illusion of the old woman and stood there as the slim young blonde that she was. She reached down and picked up her familiar and said, "Come on, Isis, we're missing our talk shows." This last one, if you've heard this one before, please keep it to yourself. There were a group of friends, and one of them always boasted that he wasn't scared of anything. Someone would tell a scary story. Nope, didn't scare me. There'd be a bolt of lightning, clap of thunder. Nah, didn't scare me. Well, the friends got really tired of hearing him boasting about nothing scared him. So they thought about it, and finally they said, "Okay, let's make a bet. We've got a haunted house in town. Nobody has ever lasted in that house all night. They can hardly last past a minute past midnight. If you can stay in that house all night, then we'll believe nothing can scare you. But if you can't, you gotta stop talking about it. He said, fine, nothing scares me. And on a night of a full moon, he went to that house, and there was a rocking chair near the hearth, full of dust, but he had brought a book and a flashlight and a thermos. So he was reading and rocking, and just after midnight, there was a sound. Do you know what I do with my long red fingernails and my ruby red lips? Nah, I didn't hear anything. But he did hear footsteps upstairs and footsteps coming down the stairs. Do you know what I do with my long red fingernails and my red ruby lips? And he felt his heart start beating a little faster. And a creature came into the room he was in. It was big, and he could see light glinting off blood-red fingernails. Do you know what I do with my long red fingernails and my ruby red lips? At that point, he was scared, and he ran past her out the door and down the road. And the creature was running after him. Well, he ran long and he ran hard and he ran out of breath. And he had to stop, and the creature was right behind him. Do you know what I do with my long red fingernails and my ruby red lips? And at that point, he figured, this is the end. What else can I do? And he turned around, and the creature was hideous, and its breath was awful. And he said, no, I don't. Show me.
Can we all practice that? Thank you, Lynn Jaffe. We have a couple more spooky stories for you. And anyone else here interested in 19th century children's rhymes? Maybe a couple people? Oh, yes, yes. Tell me if you've heard this one. Up the close and down the stair, in the house with Burke and Hare. Burke's the butcher, Hare's the thief, knocks the boy who buys the beef. Anybody? Anybody? No. Well, back in the days when children were told to go out and play and, come back before sunset, my friend Janice grew up in Scotland. Now, she's in her late 70s now, but she remembers her mother's warning because of a story she told her. And the warning is this: don't go into the graveyard after dark. Now, most of us remember warnings like this, but we have to remember the story. And so Janice, she told me that story, and so now I'll tell it to you. When your grandmother Ginny was just a little girl, she lived in the tenements in town. Now, she loved to go out and play, and one day, she went to play on the other side of town with her friend. They took that old tennis ball out and they bounced it against the brick wall. 1, 2, 3, a leery, 4, 5, 6, a leery. As they bounced the ball against the wall, they made it do tricks. 7, 8, 9, a leery. And they got so wrapped up in their game that they paid no attention to time, and soon Ginny heard her friend's mother calling them in before sunset. Well, Ginny lived on the other side of town, and the fastest way to get there was through the graveyard. But Ginny remembered her mother's warning, don't go into the graveyard after dark. But she was quick, and she'd have time before it got dark, right? Well, the graveyard was bigger than Ginny remembered. And this time of year, the days were getting shorter, the nights were getting longer. And when the sun disappeared, Ginny was still in the graveyard. Well, she started to walk a little faster. She was almost running now. Her heart was beating a little faster. She was looking around, and she was starting to breathe a little faster. She was running as fast as she could and looking around, and in the dark, as the chill of the night air had come on and dusk had turned to twilight, she ran just a little bit faster, picking up the pace. And finally she relaxed because she could see the exit off in the distance there, just across the graveyard. But then suddenly, out of the corner of her eye, something was there. She looked over, and it seemed like a lantern that was bobbing and weaving and bobbing and weaving in the air all on its own. Ah! She jumped behind a gravestone. She peered behind and looked and squinted and tried to see as far as she could, watching that lantern bob and weave and bob and weave. And she thought she saw some shadowy figures off in the distance. As she looked even further, one of those figures seemed to be hacking at something. She tried to look a little closer, when suddenly, something came through the air and landed right in front of her. Thump! And as she looked at it, she could see the red painted fingernails, the gold jewels of a disembodied hand. Ah! And it seemed to claw its way towards her. Ah! She jumped, looked at it, and then she began to run. And she ran as fast as she could for that exit. Her heart was racing, coming out of her throat, when she could hear footsteps behind her, and that lantern going clink, 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 clink. She ran faster and faster, and that lantern got closer. Clink, 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 clink. Footsteps getting closer. She ran faster. Her breath was getting shorter. They were getting closer, but she made it out of that exit, and she heard her footsteps pounding on the ground. She listened for the footsteps behind her, but all she could hear was her heart getting louder and louder and louder. She could barely breathe. She ran all the way through the city, all the way till she got to her home. She pulled open the door, ran inside, and still her chest heaving and tears coming down her pale cheeks. Her mother could see the fear on her face and said, "What's the matter, child? What's the matter?" But Ginny, she couldn't say a word. She just sat there and trembled. Her mother just gave her a hug, hugging her trembling body. And Ginny, she still couldn't say a word. Well, her mother finally was able to tuck her into bed. And it was only with that warm presence of her mother that calmed her in only the way that a mother can, that she was able to finally drift off to sleep. Well, the next morning, Ginny woke up, and everything seemed like a dark, hazy dream, so far in the distance. She came down, still half asleep, walking down the stairs, hungry for breakfast. She walked into the kitchen, and there on the table she saw her father's newspaper, and the newspaper read, "Grave robbers selling bodies to the medical school." It was years later before my friend Janice would learn the whole backstory. You see, in Scotland in those days, they would dig up the newly buried dead, the grave robbers, in order to take that gold and the jewels. And after a while, they found that, if the bodies were fresh, they could sell them to the medical school for their anatomy dissection classes, all in the name of science, you know. And this is true. You can read about it in the old papers. You go back to Scotland, you can even look up some documentaries and find out about these grave robbers. But you can also read about William Burke and William Hare. You see, in December of 1827, they began collecting bodies, all in the name of science, of course, for the advancement of medicine. And they would sell these bodies to a Mr. Robert Knox of the medical school. Now, by December 1827, it had been about 10 harrowing months, and they had collected about 16, well, no, guess maybe 16 bodies, they think. And no one's quite sure of the count, but you'll be happy to know they were eventually caught. Yes, they were eventually caught. Now, Hare testified against Burke for immunity, and Burke, well, he didn't have it so good. You see, he was sentenced to a hanging, and he was hanged in front of a jeering crowd, much like this one. And in fact, you can still find his skeleton hanging. Yes, in the University of Edinburgh Medical School, hanging for educational purposes, of course. And you might be wondering out there, does the punishment fit the crime? Well, you see, Burke and Hare, they got so greedy. They didn't just do grave robbing. At some point, they decided they couldn't wait for bodies to die. And so they would lure these bodies into their home. And Burke actually would do the preparing of the bodies. And you see, if the bodies were relatively unharmed, they would be paid more. And so Burke and Hare, they had this business going. And you might understand why they deserved a bit more punishment. But you might also understand why it would be dangerous to walk across the graveyard at night where people were disappearing. And you might also wonder why it was that during that time people were in hysteria. Because if you were alone walking in the dark on a night like tonight, you might disappear. So perhaps, like Ginny, you will remember, don't go into the graveyard after dark. And please, come home before sunset. There are scary things out there in the dark. Up the close and down the stair, in the house with Burke and Hare. Burke's the butcher, Hare's the thief, Knock's the boy who buys the beef. You know, on your way out tonight, we're going to have a little tent. There'll be some things for sale, but there'll also be a sign up for body donation. Please stop in. It's all in the name of medical science, you know. It's just the 21st century maybe, and everything's all on the up and up. We have forms for you to sign in triplicate. Don't you worry. We can wait for you to die. Well, you know, after a drink of all these stories, I feel you need a chaser, right? Something to change the flavor a little bit. We have Mary Lou Williams for a final story, The Chaser.
The story I'm going to tell you tonight is adapted from a literary tale. It was written by John Collier and published in the New Yorker magazine in December of 1940. And it's, Joel said, it's called The Chaser. Once upon a time, there was a young man who was madly and passionately in love with a young woman, but she was not in love with him. The young man's name was Alan, and the young woman's name was Diana. Alan was so in love with Diana that he felt life was not worth living without her, and so he decided to end it all. But before he did, he came across an advertisement for a love potion. It sounded far-fetched, but Alan was desperate, and after all, what did he have to lose? So he went to the shop where the love potion was sold, and there, in the shop window, was a ceramic bottle embossed with roses and thrown upon a velvet pedestal. And underneath was the sign, "Love Potion, inquire within." So Alan went into the shop, and he said to the shopkeeper, "I just happened to be passing by, and I noticed the love potion in your shop window. So I came in to find out more about it." "What would you like to know?" asked the shopkeeper. "Well," said Alan, "before I decide whether or not to buy it, I'd like to know what it does." "I'd be glad to tell you," said the shopkeeper. "When you give this love potion to the object of your affections, she will fall madly and passionately in love with you. She will be so in love with you that she will not want you out of her sight any moment of the day, morning, noon, or night. When you go to work, she will call you 100 times a day just to hear your voice and to know that you are there. Wherever you go, there will she be. She'll be your shadow. Is that what you had in mind?" "Yes," said Alan, "something along those lines." And continued the shopkeeper, "You will be the center of her universe. She'll have no interest in anyone or anything but you. She'll have no interest or opinions of her own. Your interests will be her interest. Your opinions will be her opinions. If you like action movies, she'll like action movies. If you like football, she'll love football. If you're a Republican, she'll be a Republican. If you're a Democrat, she'll be a Democrat. She'll not only be your shadow, she'll be your echo. Is that what you would like?" "What's not to like?" said Alan. And continued the shopkeeper, "She will be insanely jealous, not just of other women, but of anyone or anything else in your life, your family, your friends, even a pet that you might have. She'd be jealous of the time and attention you spend on that pet. If you have a favorite television program, she'll be jealous of that program, of your interest in that program, rather than in her. Is this what you want?" "I could live with that," said Alan. "And that's not all," said the shopkeeper. "There's nothing you can do that will destroy her love for you. You can insult her, humiliate her, reject her, beat her, even abandon her. She will be hurt, oh, so terribly hurt, but she will seek you out, and she will find you, no matter where you go. And when she does, she will forgive you and love you all the more. There is nothing you can do that will destroy her love for you." "Oh," said Alan, "I would never do anything like that." And then Alan looked at the shopkeeper suspiciously. "How long does this love potion of yours last? Do I have to come in for a refill? Every month or every week or even more often?" "On the contrary," said the shopkeeper, "this love potion is permanent. She will love you with the same mad, and it never loses its potency. She will love you with the same mad, passionate intensity from the time she first tastes the love potion until the day she dies. Till death do you part." "Oh," said Alan, looking even more suspiciously at the shopkeeper now. Such a desirable, powerful love potion must be very expensive. How much does this love potion cost? $1, replied the shopkeeper. $1, laughed Alan. Why, the bottle alone must cost more than $1. How do you make any money on this love potion of yours? To be perfectly honest, said the shopkeeper, I don't. It's what we call in the trade a loss leader. It brings people into my shop, so hopefully they'll buy something else that I sell. And what else do you sell? Asked Alan. I sell this, said the shopkeeper. And he held up a clear, simple glass vial that seemed to contain nothing but water. I sell this colorless, odorless, tasteless poison, said the shopkeeper. It kills instantly and without pain and leaves no trace in the victim's body, so that the person seems to have died of natural causes. Oh, said Alan, recoiling in horror, who would want something like that? Oh, said the shopkeeper, you'd be surprised. I sell as many of these as I do of the love potion. Really, said Alan, in disbelief. And what else do you sell? Just those 2 items, said the shopkeeper. And you make a living selling just those 2 items? Asked Alan. I do all right, said the shopkeeper. Well, said Alan, I have no interest in that, I'm sorry, he said, I have no interest in that second item in your in your inventory, but I will take the love potion, and here is my $1. And here you are, said the shopkeeper. I'm sure you will find it very effective. I'm sure I will, said Alan, if it's all you say it is. And since I have no interest in that second item in your inventory, and since the love potion is permanent, I guess I won't be coming into your shop anymore. So I will bid you goodbye. Till we meet again, said the shopkeeper. The title, the chaser, the moral, be careful what you wish for. You might get it. And oh, by the way, there's no ghost in this story, but I think there's a potential one that comes after the story is over.
Thank you. Mary Lou, stay up here for a second. Lynn Jaffe, Mary Lou Williams, and myself, Joel Yang. I want to thank you for being our audience today. And just look out for any questions, or maybe I'll do what we did the other night. And if you had any moments that stick with you, we'll go around real quick before we close our program tonight. But let's see. Oh, we'll start over here. Anybody want to start?
I just gotta say, first off, I love both of your outfits. It's really pretty. Secondly, I love your guys' story, especially the Japanese one and the boot and the chaser. I just have that spine-chilling feeling, and that was really good. But I want to hear more. The cliffhanger, this is the best part. I love it.
I love the emphasis you two put into your story. Some people might tell these stories blandly, but you two throw a lot of passion into changing your voices with each moment of the story to keep us engaged, so I thought you did that really well.
I absolutely loved the Japanese story, the What Are You Afraid Of? It was just a story where you can put a lot of emotion and expression into it, and you absolutely nailed it. So I just really loved the execution of the story.
Any questions out there for us all? Spooky stories. I do want to say that I asked at the beginning, how many of you like to be scared? A few of you. You know, we like to be scared when we know we're safe. And I went to a workshop on scary stories, and it's not my genre, but I fell in love with the idea of the genre when I went to this workshop because she was talking about why we need to tell scary stories and why we need to tell scary stories to kids. And she had this, idea of telling the scary stories but being age appropriate and telling scary stories to little kids. You take them all the way up to the scary, and then you make them laugh, like Lynn Jaffe did. And the idea is that, we like to be scared when we know we're safe, but there's going to be a point where we're scared and we're not safe. But if you know what to do with that emotion, one, you could laugh, but you can, work through the emotion. And so the stories get a little, just a little more, less laughter, but more of a suspense kind of spookiness to them, rather than gruesome in this kind of genre of storytelling. Although what we didn't do for you, except for that falling cane, was a jump story, which is the other genre. The other genre of spooky story, where we take you all the way in and then we go, boo! Okay. All right. Thank you all for participating in the spooky stories, and a genre that I think is one that is really helpful, that we keep the monsters and the dragons and so forth out there so that we know what to do with them, because they do exist in real life, right? Thank you all. Give yourselves a round of applause for being such a beautiful audience.
Yeah.
And we're here for questions.
Kendall,
Yeah.
I said I hope you have a good night.
You too. Have a great
I'm
night.
actually trying to be nice. Can I give you a hug?
I'm giving you a hug.
Oh, you gotta tell me. Where's Brooklyn? Is she still on your left? Or
Brooke is right here.
Hi, Brooke. Good. Did you enjoy this as well?
Excuse me, Bree.
Nah, you want me to do it?